Well, Stephen, of all of the basketball games we've ever seen in our lives, that was definitely one of them. I wasn't in a good place at halftime, I think is probably the best way to put it. Kentucky digs just an unbelievably embarrassing hole to start with, ends up getting down 27 points. They claw back, cut it to 11. They get it within striking distance, but when you dig a 27-point hole, buddy, you know, it takes a miracle. It takes a miracle. It takes perfect basketball down the stretch, and unfortunately, Ole Miss played pretty exceptional basketball. I mean, 98 points in a 98-84 win. Kentucky's defense has fallen off a cliff. I mean, it was never good to begin with. I mean, it's always been pretty poor, but without Lamont Butler in the lineup, Kentucky is a pretty horrific defensive team. Totally out of sorts offensively. I mean, they were struggling to get the ball past midcourt, getting 10-second violations. I mean, there was just so much to just go, what the hell is happening? I hated hearing on the game day broadcast, ESPN broadcast apparently said that shoot around was not where it needed to be, that the focus wasn't where it needed to be. Mark Pope said afterward that, politely kind of said that they're trying to get focus where it needs to be. Kentucky wasn't prepared. They let one emotional loss turn into two after a pretty deflating loss at home against Arkansas on Saturday, Stephen. I could not have been more disappointed in the first 20 minutes of this game. And then cool that they cut it to 11, but it didn't matter. As Mark Pope said it so eloquently afterward, we don't do moral victories with Kentucky basketball. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Honestly, I'm good.
You?
Yeah, I know. Usually I'm like I think you're more down than I am. I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know Ole Miss was going to light it up like this. There's plenty of things that we wouldn't get down to it. I have several things that I thought during the game that maybe, hey, if you're going to give up this many three-point attempts anyway, is there a law, Jack? Is there a law out there that says Kentucky can only play zone for a certain amount of possessions throughout the year? Because I'm not saying zone is the answer, because it's not. But I would like to just to let me sleep easy at night. Let's just remember the Gonzaga game? I remember it. And they went into that morphing zone, and whatever it did to I don't know. I mean, remember
you said that you weren't in a bad place, that you were going to be optimistic. I feel you ramping up.
Getting this out.
I feel you ramping up.
I'm getting it out. Getting this out right now because I'll just say this. What do I know that Mark Pope doesn't? I mean, I can't sit here and say that I understand this game better than I do not. The only thing that I could say is, if you're getting beat anyway, if you're getting at that many good looks, if they're hitting inside-out threes anyway, drive and kick and pick and pop, you're catching the ball right here, you're stepping into your shot. Sometimes in the zone, unless they can work it in, kick it out, yes, they do that too, but a lot of times three-point shooters are catching it on the wing, they're catching it from the side, now you got to square up. Again, I don't know more than Mark Pope does. There's probably a good reason why Kentucky doesn't play zone. Maybe it has to do with lack of communication. Maybe it's the fact that these aren't good defensive players.
They ran one possession of it, and it led to a corner pocket three 4 seconds later, and then it went poof, bye-bye.
And I just think that I don't know what the answers are, because this is clearly, like you said, it's a different team without Lamont Butler. If you had gone into this season and Mark Pope didn't bring in crises or Lamont Butler, what would you think this team would do? They would
struggle.
They would struggle. They would probably kind of suck a little bit. And we saw it tonight. I am seeing stuff on Twitter that I just cannot believe. I really can't believe it. I love Kentucky fans, and I love the passion. And I know they're just hurting tonight, and maybe you'll wake up tomorrow and you'll be like, it kind of is what it is. But this, the negativity of, what do you think was going to happen? Did you think that you could come in to these last three games? You're so fortunate that Tennessee missed 34 threes. We are so fortunate that happened. Honestly, I didn't think they were going to win tonight. I'm nervous about South Carolina because you said it.
Very similar defensive
10-second violations, no separation. Kentucky starting their offense 8 feet behind the three-point line. because they don't have a point guard. I don't know why this is hard to understand. If Mark Pope went into this season and didn't bring in Crises and Lamont Butler, you all would have said, what the hell? We're not going to win any games. And you know what? They're going to struggle to win games until those guys come back. That's just the reality. Mark Pope, you could have Rick Pitino on that sideline. I don't know what Rick Pitino does to fix this. You've lost your best guard defender. The season is over if they don't come. I mean, your title hopes basically ended December 3rd in Clemson. He gets hurt, doesn't play against Gonzaga. Crises gets hurt because Lamont couldn't play against Gonzaga. Now, I mean, this is, if you take, I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm a little riled up. I have questions for you. If you take to the 2011 team, and if Brandon Knight gets hurt, that team ain't going into Final Four. If you take if Marquise Teague gets hurt, we're still searching for title number 8. Let me tell you, everything about the season, everything preseason, about how good this team can be, what the expectations should be, everything from now on, as a Dolphins fan who has to watch Tua sit on the bench and us not make the playoffs, I can tell you, it all comes down to one caveat: if they stay healthy. And if they don't stay healthy, you get down by 27 to a pretty good Ole Miss team, too, who played really well. Now, I mean, maybe there's stuff that Mark Pope said he's failing, that he said in the press conference, I'm failing, I got to have a better defensive strategy. I'm going to shut up eventually, I promise. I need to figure out some defensive stuff. Is there anything that you're seeing that is like, okay, they can do this better with the guys that they have? And that, I just think, like, that's a pretty smart coaching staff.
I think this staff just has the trust and confidence they have in these guys to just kind of figure it out eventually. I think has been pretty detrimental to them in watching things unravel. I agree with the Lamont Butler being out is it just kind of is what it is. But they cut it from 27 to 11 without Lamont as well. Mm-hmm. And
it's not everything. No, it's not everything, but it's like 75%. I don't know. You can't put a percentage on these things.
I also just didn't like the approach. I didn't like the body language. I didn't like the energy. It didn't feel like guys were engaged and locked in early. And then when things unravel and get out of hand and they kind of let go of the rope temporarily, get it down to 27 points, then the urgency kind of flips. This team just has this identity and this complacency and this energy that says we can come back from anything. We can withstand some early adversity and take some early hits, knowing that we always got a shot. And yes, Lamont being out was a big part of it, but like I just didn't think there was a big want to early. Like I was more disappointed in the energy and the want to, and like it's a really weird game to balance because Ole Miss was making shots at an unbelievable rate. I mean, some of the difficult shots that they were making contested. Yes, when you're watching the bigs, there's a balance, Stephen, of rolling with the percentages and saying, hey, if we're going to give up a three, I want it to be Malik Dia, who is coming in as a 25% three-point shooter. Like, if there's a guy...
He was 2 of 4 tonight.
If there's a guy that you want taking shots, that's the one. But there's also a balance between, leaving that guy without a hand in his face, without a body even within 15 feet of him, and giving him a horse shot. There is just such a weird balance with this group of like, yes, understanding the game plan of in a vacuum, you want the poor three-point shooters to take the shots, but that doesn't mean that you just go back to the locker room when they catch the ball. Like there is just a weird balance with this team that how much do you weigh Lamont's absence? How much do you weigh incredible shot making? How much do you say, hey, that's 24, 20, is it 23 or 24? 24 assists to 1 turnover for Ole Miss. That is unprecedented. That is historical. Chris Beard said afterward, he's like, one time in my life coaching have I ever had a team that's done that, and it was at the JUCO level, I believe. He was like, that's not something. But what is the flip side of that, of why does it take until things are out of hand for us to see a full court press? Why do we have to wait until, oh crap, we're cooked? I mean, we're down 27 points to then see some zone looks, to then, I mean, if you're going to give open attempts from, if you're going to give open attempt after open attempt after open attempt, what difference does it make if they're throwing a zone at you or not? Like There is just a really weird dynamic with this group, with this team, and the staff in particular. They have this unwavering trust in their guys that they're just things are gonna sort out. That we see these long, ridiculous scoring droughts and scoring runs for the defense that lead to we're in a 14-point hole. Now we're in a down 18, whatever, and then that's when the timeout comes. It just feels like we're a step late because of the trust, and
I think
they got to jump out in front of it sometimes.
Without Lamont, I think you got to maybe not trust as much.
You got to throw some wrinkle. Like, you have to throw everything out there.
You said before the game, Kentucky needs to shoot 33s. I feel like we've been saying this for the last how many games? Wasn't that the goal of the season, to get 33s? Now, part of it is, if you're starting your offense 8 feet behind the three-point line and you can't get guys open, then you're probably not going to get to 33s. Kentucky shot, again, really well from behind the three-point line.
And this team 21. Just has this awful, awful, awful habit of hero ball and run and going ISO, and like when the ball is moving and you see it whipping around, it more often than not leads to some clean looks, leads to some dump offs down low, leads to a lob, there's just the more creative you get, the better opportunities that come. But there are just times that it feels like we're watching the archaic offenses that we just thought we had left in the past when we signed on for the video game offense that YouTube tells us when, Mark Pope takes the job. It just feels there's so many times that Ortega puts his head down and says, I'm going to the rim no matter who is in front of me. I'm going to, whatever the defense gives me, it's going to be a layup at the rim one way or the other. If there's 7 people guarding me, I'm going to be finishing at the rim. Brandon Garrison is a black hole. When the ball goes inside, it is gone forever. Some absolute no-shows today. Ainsley Almanor, 15 minutes, not a single shot.
Didn't take a shot.
Not a single rebound, not a single assist, not a single,
starter.
Turnover. I'd have take foul. I'd have take anything.
Dude, he is not in the stat sheet at all.
15 minutes of nothing.
That's crazy.
Trent Noah, same exact stat line with 13 minutes of gameplay. Absolutely nothing. Both of those guys reached club trillion tonight, and that's not a good thing. Colin Chandler was one field goal attempt from being away from there. Just so many different things to be frustrated with. You just don't know where it, what the root of it is.
And you don't really know how do you fix it until you get some guys
And Mark
healthy.
Pope says, we are desperately searching for answers, and we're going to find the answer. The biggest takeaway of the night for me is Mark Pope when asked, like, hey, you guys got down 27 points. What gives? Do you take it as a positive that you were able to cut it down, cut it to 11 and give yourself some semblance of a shot? He said, we don't do moral victories here at Kentucky. I think that is the takeaway of this game. Just wasn't good enough. The last 2 performances have not been good enough for Kentucky basketball standards. They haven't been coached particularly well. The execution has been extremely poor. Body language has been extremely poor. The approach and the energy has both been extremely poor. And a big part of it is Lamont is part of the problem, but it is not the problem. Kentucky has a Kentucky problem right now that I don't know how gets fixed in the short term. Stephen, I don't know.
I think that you got 9 games left, and I want to see them win at least 4 of those. That would put you at 8-10. That's as because of all the other wins they've accumulated. That's still somewhere in the vicinity between like a 5 and a 6 seed, and. Yeah, that's not good enough at Kentucky. I feel like I have to remind myself constantly how quickly this team was put together, how none of these guys played together before, and how this was going to be challenging. You know, this is hard. This is hard for this coaching staff now, and it didn't get easier. Starting December 3rd, it only got harder. You have to figure out how to do it because the fans are getting impatient, and it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to listen to what I say. I understand there are no excuses. You're at Kentucky. You're supposed to win right away. Doesn't matter. No excuses. But I can't help but watch these games and think about what could have been had you just avoided some injuries. And it's just like, I mean, everybody deals with injuries to some extent. But when you look, and when I did this yesterday. I went through. I looked back at the Final Four teams from last year. Castle missed 6 games. Nobody else missed more than one in the one seeds. I looked at the 1 seeds because those had the best regular seasons, right? And if you go to every single national champion from 2012, as I said, because Kentucky didn't have any injuries, none in 2012, none in 2011. Almost all of this is injury luck. Now, you got to figure out how to win anyways, because that's not going to be a good enough excuse. And you're going to go into year 2, and the pressure is going to mount. So they need to figure it out. It sounds like I'm the one making excuses for as to why Ole Miss played really well tonight.
It's a nuanced conversation. Like this is not a if Lamont Butler plays, Kentucky wins by 100.
I'm not saying that.
But I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. But there is a portion of the fan base that takes one pocket of the night, and there's on the flip side they say Ole Miss made a million shots, contested, whether somebody was 15 feet away from them, leaving a hand down, or as closely contested as it could possibly be, and they made shots. How much of it, sometimes it's just not your night. There is, a portion of the fan base has taken that approach. A portion of the fan base has said, this team just stinks. The Mark Pope, honeymoon is over, blah, blah, blah. They're little compartments of the fan base that are kind of taking these hardened stances without just kind of taking like, hey, coaching probably wasn't good enough, but they're having to work overtime to figure out how to play without their 2 lead guards and completely change the identity of the team while also factoring in, hey, they're on the road. Crowd sucked, by the way. Atmosphere was just terrible.
We didn't even talk about that.
Can't even believe
this was
how
the weakest
bad,
of all atmospheres.
So nothing about a hostile environment. This place, cool arena, cool environment. I like, as I drop my phone on the floor, I like the venue, but I was really disappointed in the fan base. Like I thought they would be a whole heck of a lot better.
Students were great. Everyone else didn't even want to show up.
But also factoring in just like, okay, you're already dealing with the struggles as is, and then they're making just absolutely insane shots. It's a nuanced conversation that you have to have when talking about this game and the current situation that Kentucky is in. And I think that's why when you listen to Mark Pope talk after the game, there is just kind of this, I don't have answers to give you because we are sitting here as one of the smartest coaching staffs in college basketball going, what the hell do you do when you have all of these factors kind of playing against you? But part of it is on the players and the approach and the urgency. I'm tired of watching things click for this group whenever they have backs against the wall down by double digits. I'm tired of that happening.
Like, do you think it's something like you get down by a lot and it's kind of like, screw it, you're just like playing loose because you don't even feel like you have.
Well, I think that's why they went and won in Knoxville, because they had that approach and they knew it. They knew that they were a double-digit underdog on the road without their starting point guard. They said, nobody thinks that we're going to go win this game. Why the hell would we not? What do we have to lose? If we lose, people say, well, yeah, they're supposed to lose. I just wish that the
3 out of 4 games have gotten down double digits. In the first half.
Just watching it kind of slip and slip and slip and not throwing the wrench in and the wrinkle and the like, hey, let's just try something different. I don't know. There's a lot to be frustrated with tonight. I would advise caution. I guess we got to talk about, like, Pope didn't give the most glowingly optimistic outlook on either Kerr or Lamont. We weren't able to hear it in person, but because we're here in person, but the broadcast apparently talked about it's going to be a not if but when situation with Lamont coming back. I have heard personally that Lamont is pushing and trying to give it a go at some point, hopefully soon, but still just kind of that, that part is up in the air. The issue that I've heard is the opportunity for setbacks are infinitely higher with the shoulder issue that he's dealing with, where, if he's fighting through a tough screen or something like that, it's just so easily, tweakable that, how close can they get him back to 100% before letting him rip, while also knowing that, like, hey, the season's kind of slipping away, losing now 4 of the last 5, like, what is the push and give and take with that? Like, we do kind of need you back immediately because all the pets' heads are falling off right now without you, while also saying, like, hey, we could be one tough screen away from Lamont Butler being out for the season. So they're in a really tricky spot, and I do not envy this coaching staff. I wholeheartedly support this coaching staff. I do not think right now is the time to have any big picture. Mark Pope isn't the guy it takes. This staff stinks. I think that's totally ludicrous.
Mark Pope is too humble to just not figure it out. Like, his humility gives me confidence.
He was like,
he's taking this stuff hard.
He is taking, and you want that from your head coach of this program. Like, he knew that Arkansas was not acceptable. He knows that this is not acceptable, while also desperately searching for answers. So take a deep breath, be frustrated, like, be pissed off. It's okay to be pissed off with how Kentucky's performance tonight was unacceptable. We don't do moral victories at the University of Kentucky. However, have a nuanced conversation about this. Understand that it's a complex situation, that they're working through some of those complexities in the same way that we're trying to process them watching the game. It sucks. I'm not feeling great. I wish I'm Mr. Eternal Optimist, Sunshine Pumper. I wish I could be like, hey, here's the answer. Here's why you should believe. Here are 5 reasons not to panic about the University of Kentucky. I don't have those reasons, because I have an internal, like, panic meter getting hotter and hotter and hotter every time we watch this team play. However, there's still 9 games left to play in the regular season, 9 games left for the team to get healthier and figure this thing out. And dude's won 6 top 15 games. He deserves a little bit more runway and a little bit more grace for a really, really tough, difficult situation. Hope he figures it out. I believe in him to figure it out, but it doesn't feel good in the meantime. So, Steven, Amari Williams.
I was going to say,
Amari Williams, 4th triple-double in the history of Kentucky basketball.
I couldn't believe that.
Do you know the last person to get a triple-double and against who the team was?
I was actually going to ask if somebody told you. Did you know it? Do you know off the top of your head?
Isaiah Briscoe against Ole Miss.
Get out of here. No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is cool. Wow, it would have been a lot cooler.
That came in a win, though.
Yeah, that would have been a lot cooler if they got it with the win. But seriously, shout out to Amari Williams. That is really impressive, even though, you know.
What was it, 12, 11, and 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's pretty good. And, he wasn't taking any. He said in the post game, he didn't even hardly acknowledge it. He'll maybe appreciate that later on, maybe after the season's over, like how good of a performance that was. And he did it. He did it in 26 minutes, 25 minutes and 49 seconds. It's pretty good from Amari Williams.
Otega, hero ball. There were times that finishing around the basket was pretty problematic, but
still, finished with 20?
24 points on 8 of 17 shooting. Otega is not a concern of mine right now. 18 for Jackson Robinson. It kind of felt like some of the big shots in the moment that, hey, if we're going to claw back and give ourselves a chance, we got to make this shot right now. And Jackson seemed to be the guy that hit those more often than not. So
took 10 threes. I like that.
Grateful for Jackson's performance, but just not good enough everywhere else. I mean, really, it's not good enough in general. 10 of 21, we're not taking enough shots. Too many missed free throws. Just go down the list.
Do you think it's fair to say, and this is the last thing I was going to talk about, and I was going to say that, is it fair to say you can be pissed off about how the team started this game, and and also understand this is not the same team that we've had to beat Duke, to beat Florida, to beat Louisville, and to also, I mean, you said this earlier about having some nuance. You can be pissed off that there was like maybe a little bit lack of effort, lack of urgency, like you said. That's now 3 of 4 games where Kentucky's gotten down by double digits. I think it's 4 or 5 they've gotten down by at least 9. If they can go on runs and get stops in the second half, you should be able to do it in the first half.
Correct. Which goes back to my Lamont take of this is not a Lamont Butler problem.
Right. Entirely.
In totality.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I still think if there's a big picture take, enjoy these last 9 regular season games. Try. This is challenging. You're going to see how good of a coaching staff, or you're going to be able to figure it out, because this is tough. They're going to have to navigate this and try to figure out how to pull out some wins. We might look back at that Tennessee game and wonder how the hell they did it. But
I think we're already kind of at that point.
It's true.
All things considered.
I think I was doing it that night.
Yeah.
But now especially, it does help when a team shoots 11 to 45 from 3, and they're gonna run into them a week from today. So, is that right? Play Tennessee a week at home?
Lord, yes.
So
yes,
they probably won't shoot 45 threes again.
Right,
so let's just see. I know it's hard. I'm as big of a Kentucky fan. I'm devastated. I hate we have to drive home with the loss. I absolutely hate it. But I'm also trying to just not be so. We kind of know what this team is. Last year, I thought that team should have been a 1 seed and should have been fighting for a Final Four national championship. I think we knew going into this season, and even when they beat Duke, and even when they got some of those big wins, we kind of knew this wasn't going to be this year. And I think we all got our hopes up because they did win some big games
and overachieve in some of the bigger moments. Yeah,
and they pulled out some games that were down to final possessions, could have gone either way, and they went Kentucky's way. And so I'm excited still for these last 9 games. I want to see how this coaching staff, I want to see adjustments. I do want to see adjustments. And I want to see how they're able to navigate this, because I'm hoping that this will be the hardest it will be for Mark Pope and his coaching staff for as long as he's at Kentucky. I hope it's 2024-25 that we talk about as being the toughest job that they had. To try to figure out how to get wins with the players they had available. And I'm not dogging these guys. These guys have individual skills that have helped them win games. But I do think, is this okay to say? This is the least. Hopefully will be the least talented team that he would have.
Yeah.
And again, these are great. These are really good ball players. So it's not. But you can tell that they're. When we've talked about it before, how many NBA guys are on this roster. Last year we had two lottery picks.
Top 10.
Yeah. 2 top 10 picks, and they were bounced in the first round. So, and they got a 3 seed. So I'm saying, like, let's just see. Let's see how this all plays out. And I like my team.
I like my healthy team.
I like my healthy team.
Lamont, if you're watching, please get healthy. We miss you. It's sad. Kerr, I don't know what the prognosis is there, but I would love to see you back in a Kentucky uniform, not just being a good old MFer on the bench. We appreciate the effort from the bench, but we'd love it even more if it resulted in some change of pace and some energy on the floor. I need some energy. It's been a long day. We've driven from Kentucky all the way down to Mississippi. And tomorrow, guess what? We're driving all the way back. It's going to be a sad, crappy car ride. But guess what? We have you, and we appreciate that. Thank you, BBN. Hopefully this little mini vent therapy session is a little bit helpful. I know it's been a rough little stretch for us, but hey, things could get worse. Things could be worse. Try to be happy about it. Go Cats.